Lou McAlister is the CEO of Broadband Development Group. He's been tasked by the Arkansas legislature to create a master plan for expanding broadband across the state of Arkansas. He and I caught up for a conversation of where things stand presently and what's to come. Well, Lou, first of all, you are the consultant hired by the state of Arkansas to develop this broadband plan, a master plan to assess kind of what the broadband needs and the coverage needs are for the state of Arkansas. For
Right.
viewers who have not been keeping up, where do we stand in that process right now?
The work is going really well. We think we're optimistically, we think we're ahead of schedule. We've been in about 29 counties so far physically, interviewing and meeting with stakeholders, superintendents, students, teachers, small business owners, judges, mayors, Farm Bureau folks. We have a few others scheduled before the end of the month. So by year end, we will have been in 34 counties. So we feel pretty good about that. And the engineering work is going well. The data gathering is a massive data gathering exercise, Roby, as you might imagine, to create a really accurate map, give us a really good picture of where we are as a state with broadband. And I feel pretty good about where we stand on that.
All right, back up a little bit and let's talk about how we define broadband. Is there an internet speed that defines broadband?
Yeah.
Is there a penetration within the community that defines a community having broadband? What are some of those parameters?
Sure. The FCC is sort of our guide on defining broadband internet access, and that's defined as 25 megabits per second as download speed. What you think about as you watch Netflix or go to the internet on something. Upload speed is 3 megabits per second, so sending emails or files or that sort of thing. So you hear people talk about 25 by 3. That's what they're talking about. That's the minimum definition out of the FCC for broadband service.
All right. And how widespread does that have to be in a community for it to be considered a community has broadband? Is it one home? Is it 100 homes? I mean, what defines that?
Therein lies a little bit of the debate. Providers report to the FCC on a thing called a Form 477, where they serve areas. If one home in that area is served, then the area is served. There may be 10 or 12 other homes in that area, none of which have service. But as far as the FCC is concerned, as far as the ISP is concerned, the area is served. But that's why we end up with inaccurate maps. That's why we end up with frustration and anger. That's why we exist, and why we're doing what we're doing. It's to find out where those gaps are and fill in those gaps and make sure that everyone has affordable broadband internet access.
You mentioned this is a very data-centric project that you're working on, lots and lots of layers of data. I know you're taking some census data, you're overlapping that with a lot of other data that you have in terms of what's been provided by telecoms and internet service providers.
Right.
Tell me where we are kind of in that data collection process. I think you've gotten pretty far with some of it, and what kind of remains?
We have gotten pretty far with a lot of it. There are 98,000 census blocks in Arkansas, and that's kind of a nerdy, term, I guess. But we are down to about the last 10% or so of that. But we're gathering data from the providers themselves. We're gathering data from other organizations. There are lots of organizations that have been surveying and gathering data over the years, and we're trying to collect and collate, sift and sort all of that data, as well as doing our own primary research. But I'd say we're down to about the last 10% of the data gathering of the census blocks themselves. And this is on an address by address basis. So we have, 1.5 million addresses or something in Arkansas. It's a lot of data to gather.
And that's where boots on the ground comes in handy.
We have a lot of folks out there, right?
So the legislature mentioned earlier this week that you guys have been doing some town hall meetings. You are going to do some more meetings in the near future, particularly in those counties that you haven't been to yet. You're assessing needs, or I guess assessing community interest or desires. What do you want from those meetings? What is the information that you're getting, and how do you package those findings in your final report?
That's a great question. There are two pieces of the research, right? One's quantitative data. You know, where do you live? What speed do you have? How much do you pay? Numbers, objective, quantitative data. The other data, though, is qualitative. How frustrated are you? How angry are you? What happens to your kids? What happens to your business? What happens when you have fiber optic cable running across your yard or across your property, but you don't have internet access? Why is that? So, taking a cue from some of our other friends, big companies, Arkansas-based companies who are pretty good at data gathering and analysis, we look at those two things: the quantitative part of that as well as the qualitative part. That's what these community meetings are really about, more than anything else, Roby. We can send a form out, a survey out, and people can give us quantitative data all day long. What we like to do is stand there and listen and interview and talk and get feedback from people and find out things like the lady in the Dardanelle Library who's looking for a job and filing her unemployment benefits because she's lost her internet service at home because the $30 a month bill that she thought she had really was a $300 a month bill, and she makes $20,000 a year. She can't afford that, and so it's devastating her credit. And she's trying to get a job. She's trying to, just survive. And you don't get that by just looking at spreadsheets and databases and analyzing data. You only get that when you're standing face to face with somebody and talking to them one on one. And so that's primarily why we're out in the communities.
This may be a little bit outside of your scope of what you've been asked to do. And if it is, you just tell me. If it's not, if it's within your purview, I would appreciate an answer on this. We have this process now where we've awarded hundreds of millions of dollars to hundreds of projects across the state, I think through this Arkansas Rural Connect program. What are your expectations going forward with additional money that's coming? Do we have the right process in place to make sure that we're distributing that money as wisely as we can, particularly with the data that you're going to provide? Is the process a good process?
I think the process this is one man's opinion. Okay. So I think the process has been sufficient so far for where we started out. But that's because we had a pretty big problem starting out. So it was really fairly easy to spend and get good projects out there. The more we move along, though, the more efficient we need to be, and the tighter we need to be, the better we need to be. And so I think that's kind of where our report comes in. That's where our work comes in. It's not that what we've done in the past has been bad. It's that what we're going to do in the future is going to be better. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need to do. We need to be, I applaud what we've done so far. We just need to make sure we're doing more better in the future, if that makes more better in the future, right? And be tighter with that.
Last question for you here. You've obviously, I think you're knee deep enough in this process to give me some sort of crystal ball look here. We do still have hundreds of millions of dollars more to come from the federal government. I think the state can also set money aside for where we're going. Is there any doubt in your mind that we will meet 100% of the demand that's out there for broadband? Are we going to satisfy everyone to some degree, or do you think that we're going to be able to go so far and we just may fall a little short for some people that are extremely rural or isolated?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a complicated question, and that kind of goes to the business case. We're only going to have so many dollars, and then there'll be a lot of dollars, but it's a limited budget nonetheless. As we go around the state, there are pockets all over the state where, really honestly, from an engineering standpoint, Roby, it's going to be hard to get to some folks. No matter what we do, no matter how much money we have, it's going to be hard to get to some folks. So will we be able to get to every single solitary address in the state of Arkansas? That's a very high bar to clear, very expensive bar to clear. I would say that we're going to get the vast majority. When back in the old days of telecom, right? When we had universal telephone service everywhere, 96% of the homes in America had a telephone, but it was considered universal, right? We were considered to have universal service, but yet there were folks that didn't have it. I would love for everybody in the state to have affordable broadband internet access, but there are going to be some folks who don't want it no matter what, and they're not going to take it no matter what. So, there will be some places probably not, but I hope that it's their choice, not ours, and that if they want it, they'll be able to figure out a way to get it and it be affordable.
We're talking to all those people living in caves that are probably not watching this interview. So.
there are some pretty remote parts of the state, as we've been finding out as we drive around. You bet.
All right. Best of luck to you on this project. When do you kind of expect final wrap up to land?
We are due to deliver this to the state on April 9th, early April. Hope is that because we all want more sooner. My hope is that we deliver early, but that's our expected delivery is April 9th.
All right. Lou McAlister, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Roby.